The 5th Blood Angel character has joined Tacticus, as Dante, the chapter master, becomes the 88th character overall to join the game. Today we'll see if this relic is as impressive as his armor is shiny. The 5th Blood Angel character has arrived in Tacticus, as Dante joins us, and so this completes the Blood Angels team. And oh boy, does Dante ever complete the team. He is probably going to be a must-have character, and one of the most powerful in the game at first look. He may be a real legendary character, so let's find out why. Commander Dante is the bringer of sanguineous light, and the living embodiment of the 5 angelic graces. The graces serve as a counterbalance to the Blood Angels' innate flaws like the red thirst and black rage. And these graces are honor, humility, mercy, restraint, and forgiveness. Honor is upholding integrity and moral principles in all actions. Humility is maintaining modesty and recognizing one's limitations. Mercy is showing compassion and forgiveness even towards adversaries. Restraint is exercising self-control to prevent succumbing to destructive impulses. And forgiveness is letting go of grudges and offering pardon to those who have erred. Dante exemplifies these ideals in his leadership and conduct. He is actually among the oldest living Space Marines and is the longest serving chapter master. To describe him as a legend is an understatement bordering on insult. As always in this series, we're going to take a look at 3 different things: how long it roughly takes to level him up to Diamond 3 when compared to other characters, his traits and general usefulness, how good he is in legendary events, and I won't be looking too much into his usefulness in guild raids or tournaments, as I leave that to our other wonderful content creators. So let's dive right in. To unlock Dante, you need to play through his legendary event, Angels of Death, with the first of his 3 events starting on Sunday the 23rd of March. With just how powerful he is as a character, the developers have really increased the difficulty of that event, and so I've done a breakdown on how you can get him for free by focusing on leveling up specific characters. You can get a link to that video in the description below. And today, as part of this incredible Dante release, I have a great code for you. The DBP Dante code will give you 5 Lucian character shards and some rare Imperial badges to help you complete your Blood Angel team. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button, get your guildmates to do the same, and keep an eye out for my weekly videos to get more codes. We have some really big subscriber targets this year, and I need all your help in getting there. And in the meantime, if you want to earn some free blackstone to help you on your way, you can use my Referral Code in-game today to get 100 free blackstone. Just note you can only use one Referral Code, so make sure you make the most of it. And let's start by looking at roughly how long it takes them to level from Stone 1 to Diamond 3. The reason I say roughly is because my sheets don't take into account all the extra ways you can get free energy, like in the tournament arena, nor getting items gifted from your guildmates or from the daily shop. It also doesn't take into account any hard to get items that haven't been added in lots of places yet, but even with all that in mind, it's always interesting to see how they compare to the other characters. So what about Dante? Where does he fit in? Well, all the Blood Angels are currently at the bottom of the leveling list, and Dante joins them. He is in 84th place, taking 36 days to go from Stone 1 to Diamond 3, and that means he's slightly longer than all the other Blood Angels, but still in a good place. The only thing really slowing them down is the fact they only have 1 node to get their elite upgrades, and we can see that over on the graph. He is way over there on the right hand side. It takes Dante 3 days to go from Stone 1 to Bronze 1, another 2 days from Bronze 1 to Silver 1, 5 days to Gold 1, 12 days to Diamond 1, and then 14 days to Diamond 3, which of course adds back up to the total 36 days. So one of the easiest champions to level. Let's look and see if we think he's worth it. We'll start with his traits. Dante is an Imperial character. He has a 4-hit piercing melee attack, which has an 80% pierce ratio. He has no ranged attack, even though he's holding a gun. And he has the Deep Strike trait, which allows him to move to any free hex not adjacent to an enemy in the first round of battle. He has Final Vengeance trait, which means he's going to take a swing at someone if he's been killed, but not overkilled. He has Flying, which allows him to move over impassable hexes and between elevations, and with 4 range, that means he can certainly get around really well. He has Rapid Assault, which allows him to get into battle quickly with 1 extra movement, and his first attack is going to be 25% stronger, and he also has the Terrifying trait, which means he takes 30% less damage from melee attacks. Now let's take a look at the character's damage, range damage, and defense. We do this by leveling the character up to Winged Diamond 3 with level 30 skills and no weapons or equipment. Then Castellan Creed, the character with the most average armor and traits in the game, becomes a punching bag for them to test their damage. And finally, Creed will punch them back to see their defensive skills. This is all then ranked against everyone else in the game. So let's see how they do today. Creed, are you ready for today's test?
I sure am, because I love gold!
What do you mean you love gold?
The look of it, the taste of it, the smell of it, the texture.
Well, Dante's armor should definitely look good to you. I'm not sure you should be tasting or smelling his armor though, considering how ancient Dante is.
Just stay away from those smelters, Dante!
Dante takes 2,450 damage from Creed, and Dante's melee attack does 3,612 damage, and of course he doesn't have a ranged attack. So with those scores, Dante places it 12th on the melee damage chart, and that high position really comes down to his piercing damage and rapid assault giving him an extra 25% damage. If he's hit someone already, then he does 2,890 damage without that extra 25%, and so he'd be in 30th position. That is a bit of a drop, but then he's meant to be used as an impact troop for sure. In terms of defense, he's in 29th place, and that is really good, but do note that with Creed only being a melee character, Dante's terrifying trait will reduce this slightly, so if he's getting battered by ranged attacks, then he would fall a bit down that list. For his skills, his passive is Lord of the Host, which is in the buffing category of skills. Other friendly units with 2 hexes that have rapid assault or the flying trait deal extra damage with melee attacks. Even more than this, if they're below 50% health, then they also score extra hits with their melee attacks. Should this be prioritized as a skill over others for new players, I certainly would consider it. He's going to be boosting your other characters if you match them with his synergies. His active is Light of Sanguinius, and this is in the damage category of skills. And this is an interesting skill with a fair bit of nuance to it too. Firstly, it's only available when Dante hasn't moved, and then once triggered, he gains Infiltrate and charges an enemy target within range, providing it has a free adjacent hex that Dante can move into. At this point, Dante will use his gun and shoot the character with Melta damage, which has 75% pierce ratio and 50% extra damage against vehicles. Very handy. The other cool thing about this skill is that the target and enemy units will now deal 25% less damage for 1 round, and this is actually doubled if they try and attack your friendly units that are below 50% health. Should this be prioritized as a skill over others for new players? I don't think so, but it is certainly a cool skill. So what do I think about their skills and traits? Well, he certainly has a lot of traits, doesn't he? And all of them are really useful for him, except maybe Deep Strike, because I find that quite useless in Solitude. He is going to be such a mobile champion at the start of the match, moving 5 spaces because of his rapid assault, so even if he doesn't use Deep Strike, he's going to be really in the faces of the enemies. His piercing attack is certainly going to hurt as well with that extra 25% damage. The buffing from his Lord of the Host passive will make him quite essential in certain teams that we'll look into shortly, and I actually really appreciate that Light of Sanguinius active, as it will do real damage to enemies Dante gets into close combat with as well. All in all, he's just an incredible character, and absolutely someone you have to get and you have to level. I expect to see a lot of early Diamond 3 Dantes. In terms of the modes that he fits into, he's got a pretty decent set of traits that might work well for legendary events actually, and I'm pretty excited to dive into that shortly. For guild raids, I think there's definitely a team where he can fit that he's going to be able to do some real damage. With so many characters that have rapid assault or flying in the guild raid teams, I think he's going to fit right in. I'm actually thinking about replacing Kalgar with him because of his mobility, and especially because his passive boosts characters that are 2 hexes around him and not just 1. Maybe we'll have both of them in the team though. Let's see how it looks. For tournament or faction arena, he's a beast. The Blood Angels were already showing up in the last tournament as one of the top teams, and now we have someone to make them even more powerful. He will be incredible. So yeah, he really fits in everywhere for me. In terms of who he works well with, you have to look first at the Blood Angels. They are going to be an insane team to deal with. Nicodemus being able to boost the heck out of them with his Blood Chalice, and then both Matanio and Lucian getting buffed by Dante's Lord of the Host passive skill. This is going to be absolutely insane, and I'm definitely not looking forward to being on the end of that pain. I guess it really does make the Blood Angels one of the most desirable teams right now in the game, even more so since they're relatively quick to level, only held back by the lack of nodes to get their upgrades from. There are some other teams that he can have a lot of fun in though, because of his passive and traits. First up, how about a rapid assault team filled with Karn, Ragnar, Matanio, and Sword Brother Godswill? And wow, that is absolutely brutal. Can you imagine them running you down? That first attack absolutely smashing you? I don't have much to say except it's going to be incredible to see and could be one of the hardest hitting teams in the game, especially for early burst damage. Another team I've been trying to make work is the deep striking team. And here I would have Dante alongside Athana at the back of the team, with Dante buffing the flying Athana. On the front lines I'd have Baraquel, who I've been really enjoying recently, and Angrax, both in their Terminator armor to soak up damage, and finally Rask could come in, get boosted by Dante because of his rapid assault trait, but also to give Angrax some extra shields when he lands. And overall, as you can tell, for me, he is the most exciting champion that's been released in quite some time. I can't wait to pick him up and have a lot of fun trying him out with different setups. So get over to my video about how to unlock him and start working towards it. Moving on to his legendary events, let's see where he fits in. Starting with the Karn event, in the Alpha track, he doesn't appear because there's no Imperials allowed. In the Beta track, he appears in the minimum 3 hits, no Terminator armor, and no big target battles. In the Gamma track, he appears in the no mechanical and piercing battles. And this gives him an overall score of 260. That's actually below the average score for this event, which is 300, so not the finest start. Moving to the Mephiston event, in the Alpha track he again doesn't appear because there's no Imperials. In the Beta track he appears in the no big target, minimum 3 hits, and piercing battles, and in the Gamma track he only appears in the minimum 3 hits battle, and so this gives him a score of 275, which this time is slightly higher than the average for the event, so not too bad. Moving to the Pattermine event, in the Alpha track he appears in the melee and max 4 hits battles. He doesn't appear in the Beta track because it's no Imperials, and in the Gamma track he appears in the piercing and no Overwatch battles. This gives him a score of 235, and with the average being 276, he's slightly below average again. Finally, for his own event, when you open him up, you can use him in the Alpha track, in the Rapid Assault battle, in the Beta track, in the no power damage and deep strike battles, and he doesn't figure in the Gamma track because it's no Imperials allowed. And so for his own event, he ends up with 240 points, and that's just above the average of 197 points for this event. And so I've been quite surprised about this result because he's only mid-table in the legendary events, but I still think that a leveled Dante is going to be pretty good in events like the piercing battles. He sits overall in 42nd position, and there maybe he does know the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe and everything. Who knows? With the addition of the Dante event, the other thing we need to look at is a change in the top characters for all legendary events. Now this will change again once we have Karn's last event, but for now we have the following. Revas and Aleph Null are right at the top, and oh boy, they are such an amazing pairing in legendary events. If you haven't leveled them up yet, then I can heartily recommend them. Iron Guard is next, and he is absolutely my favourite tank to use, so go get him into your team. His damage reduction makes legendary events so much better. 4 of the next 5 are high scoring, but are actually quite useless in terms of their mechanics in the game for legendary events. I really don't like Athana, Sygex, Makotep or Neurothrope unless they're over leveled due to their lack of damage or lack of armor. Galandis is probably the only one I like picking, although you still need to protect him. Gibba Scraps is up next, and we've seen him really jumping up the positions after the addition of the Dante event, where he's the second most important character. Onshi has always been very visible in legendary events, and he rounds out the top 10. However, I do want to call attention to the number 11 character, as Matanio is another one that's flown up the charts after we saw him being the most important character in the Dante event. And so what do you think of Dante? Is his gold armor going to be blinging its way into your team? Do you need a new legendary event hero to be smashing your way to the top? You can check him out right now in the latest version of the Google Planner Sheets linked below.